Hey, my name is Bobby Mink with Choice Consulting and Management, and we want to welcome you back to Choices Create Change podcast. Today, we'll be unpacking the book Chestnut Checkers by Mark Miller and Randy Gravitt. Randy Gravitt is a coach and a consultant, and Mark Miller was head trainer for the Chick-fil-A company and wrote several books for the training process at Chick-fil-A. So let's look at learning to play the long game, not the immediate gratification game. We're going to look at 5 areas in Chestnut Checkers, the 5 areas of impact: bet on leadership, act as one, win the heart, excel at execution, and it's your move. So bet on leadership. In chess, players work diligently to move pieces into position for maximum strategic advantage, as opposed to checkers, which is much quicker with a lot less thought. So we as leaders, our job is to set the pace. We should be looking farther down the road than anybody else on the team or in our department or in our area or even in our family. Set the pace, where we're going, what we're trying to achieve, the impact we're trying to make, the pace at which we're going to tackle this, the workflow, the work ethic. We as leaders need to set the pace for the rest of the organization. We need to grow the leadership team. So not only do we need to be growing our people, which we'll also talk about, but the handful of people that help us run the organization, whether it's marketing or sales or production or finance, development, whatever the team leaders are, we need to be growing our leadership team. So how are we doing it? Growing ourselves personally as leaders or department heads or area managers or VPs. But also, how are we growing as a team together? How are we growing with teamwork and communication and clarity? Are we growing as a team and as a leadership team? I get the opportunity to work with a lot of companies around the country, and one of the things that we try to work on early is how do we get back to trust and accountability and understanding everybody's attitude and challenges and how we could work together. There's a lot of opportunities to use tools like DISC or the 6 Geniuses that can help us identify our gifts and passions and our talents and how we mesh with the people that are around us. The other thing we need to do as leaders is build the bench. So hire the heart, hire behavior, hire drive, hire competitiveness, hire self-motivated, hire self-directed. If you want to build a great bench and a great future organization, we need to hire the heart. You know, John Maxwell said, if you find the right person, if you find a rock star, hire them and then figure out what you're going to do with them. So one of the things we noticed, especially the last several years as we're working with leadership teams and owners of organizations, is a lot of times we hire a great resume, maybe even with great references, with great experience, but we're not as keen or as tuned into the person and how they're put together. And I think what we've discovered and learned is what we really need to hire is a rock star that has a little bit of experience. And then we need to teach and train and equip them how to use their massive heart and their drive and competitiveness, and they're self-motivated, they're self-directed. Maybe they're a little bit out of the box and a little hard to control, but we can teach them probably more about the job. But there's some of those things that you can't teach. The way we were raised and the way our parents worked and the environment we were raised in. That's what we need to hire, and that's how we need to start building our bench. As betting on leadership, us as leaders go first. So our job is to lead the way with behavior, with work ethic, with our integrity. People should be able to watch us, not that we're perfect and not that we don't make mistakes or we have challenges or we stumble or we struggle or we have bad days, but we should be leading. We're there on time or early. We leave on time or maybe just a little bit later. We work hard. We listen. We try to empower others. We try to come to meetings prepared. We try to have the agenda. We try to follow up well. We try to communicate. We try to be accountable. All those things, leaders go first. We set the pace. And that is a chess game, not a checker game. That's a long play. So setting the pace means start with a heart. Heart, H-E-A-R-T, heart, hunger. As a leader, are we hungry? Do we want it? Or do we want to go after it? Are we willing to pay the price? Do we understand the price? Have we weighed out and looked at what it might cost? But do we want it? And do we want to empower and bring the team with us? So as a leader, are we hungry? Expect. Do we expect great results? Do we expect great things from our team? Do we expect to make a difference? Do we expect to hit our goals? Do we expect to do the right thing? Do we expect to find the right clients? Do we expect to have great customer satisfaction? Do we expect to have great results? Great leaders that are setting the pace, we need to have expectations, and our expectations need to be of great results. H-E-A, accept. We need to accept responsibility. There's a definition we use about, manhood. Accept responsibility, reject passivity, and lead courageously. And that is what we need to do as we set the pace as leaders. Do we accept responsibility? Can we be held accountable? Are we open to difficult conversations about behavior or decisions or results or lack of results? But A, we need to accept responsibility. R, we need to respond. Are we available? Are we aware? Are we consistent? It's quite often as I'm working with organizations, I hear that we've been waiting. We sent some emails or we left them a note or we had a conversation a few weeks ago and we haven't heard anything. There haven't been any responses, right? But if we're going to set the pace in an organization as a leader and we're going to let people watch us and hold us accountable and go first, then we need to be responsible and we need to be responding. So what is the process to figure out as the leader, how can I respond in a timely fashion? How can I be available when their input is needed from me in a situation? How can I be more aware of what's going on in the organization so that I know what things are really important to respond to quickly and what things might be able to wait? How do I become consistent with my behavior and my responses? The last thing is think. You really need to set some time to think, some quiet time with a whiteboard that's blank, maybe prayer. But if we're going to set the pace, then we need to be the one that's thinking and mulling things over and what if and looking at reports and looking at the market around us and looking at the last year or two and looking at the year or two ahead of us. We need to have some time to think and make some notes and get ahead of the rest of the organization. So we need to have a great heart, hunger, expectation. We need to accept responsibility. We need to respond timely, and we need to spend some time thinking and planning. The other thing about setting the pace is serving. The secret to success is serving, and there is a million stories about the impact of serving. You reap what you sow. And when we learn as leaders to serve and to create an environment where our people can crush it, this tribe or cult feeling can become somewhat unstoppable. Serving, we need to see the future. Once again, spend some quiet time, look at what's going on in the market, visit some competitors, go to some conventions, read some publications, spend some time talking with peers or people that are ahead of you in the industry. See the future. E is engage and develop others. We need to make sure we try to challenge, especially the rock star, the hard workers, the people that seem to get it and want more and want the opportunity. We need to engage them. We need to create the opportunity for them to be able to be exposed to more, to have the opportunity to do more, to be put in situations that might challenge them or grow them, right? But we need to challenge them and engage them to develop and move past where they are so that they can be more for themselves and their career and their family, but also more for the organization and the impact they can make. Serve. R is reinvent continuously. We should almost never hear ourselves say as leaders, this is kind of the way we've always done it. We need to be constantly challenging the status quo and the results and what we're doing and how we're doing what we're doing. And are we moving toward what we're hoping to achieve? We need to be reinventing continuously to always strive to get just a little bit better, whatever that better means for us. Customer satisfaction, profitability, excellence, execution, process, whatever that is that we need to get better at, we need to be continuously improving. We need to reinvent. Serve, V, value results and relationships. It's the results that we need through people. It's not the people that we have and hope to get results, right? So we value results and we value those relationships that help us get those results. We measure, we track, we discuss, we work on, we challenge, we watch, we monitor. We value results. And when we're not getting the results that we need, we're setting the pace in the organization. So we've got to make sure everybody stays on top of those results and that we've got clarity on what we're trying to achieve and the metrics and the things that we're measuring, right? So that everybody understands this is important. That's why we value it. And the last thing, E, embody the values. What are the values of your organization? Integrity or customer satisfaction or passion or hard work or quality, whatever the values that you have decided in your organization are important. There should be 5 to 7. When you get past 5 to 7, there's too many for people to remember. But do we have values? And the answer needs to be yes. And if we do, am I embodying those? I'm setting the pace as a leader of the company or the leader of the financial department or the leader of the sales department or the leader of the frontline department down here in the warehouse or in the production floor, wherever we find ourselves. If I'm the person that they're looking to lead this team or this organization or this department, I need to be living and embodying those values. And those values should be used as we're making hiring decisions, discipline decisions, team decisions, result decisions. Every decision we should be filtered through the values, and we should lead that as the leader. So serve, see the future, engage and develop others, reinvent continuously, value results and relationships, and embody the values of the organization. As we lead, we also need to be growing the organization, growing leaders and growing the organization. How are we doing with growing our people? And I've heard some small organizations say, Bobby, we're not big enough to have a big HR department and all this process and all the training. And I would just challenge that. One small 1 or 2 page Word document that somebody on the team would help us manage could change the game of growing people. How do we take 30 days to onboard somebody as they start learning their job? How do we create a once a month training by watching software videos or reading a book or listening to a book online or whatever it is? How do we create little baby steps to pour into our people, to grow our people? Right? So if we want to grow the organization, we need to be growing our people. We need to be growing our systems and processes, constantly challenging and improving what we're doing. How are the systems and processes doing? If we're tracking and measuring, we need to make sure that those are growing as we grow as an organization. We should be growing efficiency. It should become a little easier as we get better at what we're doing. And as we figure out what's working and not working, we should be able to be more efficient. And it's something that we should grow as an organization, grow profitability. As we get better systems, better process, better trained people, more efficient, we should grow profitability. And it's interesting having these conversations with some owners. A lot of times we're making okay money. And when I ask, could we make more? It's a new thought. We kind of always made this kind of money, but is there an opportunity to grow profitability? Are we growing our employees? Are we pouring into them? Are we creating opportunities for them to learn and grow and feel even more a part of our team and an organization? Are we growing customer satisfaction? How is our customer experience today? And could it be better? And how do we grow that system and that process to improve customer satisfaction? And lastly, and probably the most important, is how do you grow your culture? How do we grow the tribe? How do we become cohesive and team and play together and understand each other and have a heart for each other and be for each other and cheerleaders for each other? How do we create a very, very strong culture where people can thrive, which means we all thrive? And all of these areas start to grow when we can grow our culture and the tribe. We also need to build the bench. John Maxwell suggests that we hire before crisis. In fact, I said earlier, if you can find a rock star, just hire them and then we'll figure out what to do. It is hard to find rock stars. And when we find one, we need to bring them on board. But we probably need to hire before it becomes reaction. Hey, we're going to have to let them go. We got to hurry up and hire somebody to replace them. Usually get hired. Usually they get a couple of days of lessons or instruction and then they're running wide open. And we often wonder, why in the world aren't they doing better? Right? Because we waited too late. Now it's become a crisis. Now we're all reacting because we have a company running full bore, running wide open. And now we have a void that has to be replaced and we weren't ready and we weren't prepared for it. So building a bench means, do I have a long-term plan or a goal? Where do I want to be in 10 years? Where do I want to be in 5 years? Where do we want to be in 3 years? And when we unpack that possibility of a future, how do we start to get ready? How do we start to equip the team to be ready for what we feel like might be coming in the next 3, 5, or 10 years? A lot of times we're not setting aside the quiet time, our thinking time. John Maxwell says thinking is the hardest thing that we do. It's the hardest work we do. If we're not setting aside thinking and planning time, there's no way we can be ready for the possible hire that we need to be thinking about 3 to 6 months from now, that we need to maybe start posting a job opening, start setting up some interviews. It might take us 2 or 3 months to find the right person. It might take us a month or two to get them trained upright, but it needs to be a lot less reactive. We need to start building the bench. Here's the other thing. I would say hiring young is great. There's interns that need summer jobs. There's people that graduate from college. They don't have a ton of experience, but if I can hire the rock star, if I can hire the person that's driven, that was raised well, that has a good work ethic and they're self-motivated and they're driven, if I can hire that person, I can begin to train them. And once you train that young person, they can grow into the future of the company and grow up in our culture, right? So that's how you build a bench. All right. The second thing, Chestnut Checkers challenges is act as one. We need to create clarity. Ambiguity creates confusion and pause. So if we have things we're trying to achieve, if we have goals or measurements, we need to measure those results daily, weekly, and monthly and be reviewing them. We need to make sure everybody knows what we're trying to do, how your job on this team impacts the company and what we're trying to achieve. And here's the results of what we're all doing. And then we can address, if we're not doing well, what do we need to do? If we're doing great, how come we're doing great? But we need to take away I'm not really sure if I'm supposed to do that. I'm not really sure if that's the result we're supposed to have. I'm not really sure if that's the number they were after, right? We need to create clarity. We also need to staff with eagles, hire talent that wants to soar. And it's funny because I was teaching a class once on priority management, how to manage and maximize your time. And right in the middle of the class, a man on the front row that was running an organization just said, "Hey, I've got a quick question." I said, "Yes, sir." And this was right in the middle of the lesson on time management. He said, "How do you get these dang millennials to work?" And I'm like, "Oh, whoa, okay. Not really the topic for the class, but let's just talk for a second about that. So let me ask you something. Do you have core values? No. Do you have a mission or a vision statement, or what are you passionate about? No. Do you have, 10-year goals or 5-year goals, 3-year goals? No. Okay. Well, do you know what your target market is, what your marketing strategy is, what your niche in the market is? No. And I said, well, let me ask you something. How do these millennials that show up at your company know what to do? How do they know what they're supposed to be about? Right? So if we staff with eagles, we hire talent that soars. It doesn't matter which bracket of culture they come from. A Gen Z will crush it. A millennial will crush it. Work late, stay late. I mean, do everything they have to. When they understand the why, when they're challenged to do even more, can you even bring more to the table? When they're appreciated and noticed and valued, that tribe feeling, that culture, that being known and appreciated can become unstoppable, right? But we got to act as one. We got to work as a team. We got to work together, which means we got to have clarity. We got to hire the right people, and we got to affirm the values in action. And this is really interesting because I don't think a lot of us as leaders or managers necessarily were raised to be appreciated or were raised appreciating things. And so it's not a voice that we're used to using, but man, it is one of the biggest opportunities we have. We need to affirm values in action. We need to begin to train ourselves to notice. Okay, had a guy tell me once, walked up on a job, started telling him a few things I noticed that needed to be corrected that weren't exactly right. And he said, Bobby, can I just ask you a question? This is an amazing job. Ton of things are going right. I'm really kind of killing it over here. But why, when you walk up, do you notice the things that are wrong or bad first? And it hit me like a ton of bricks. And I remember making myself a note that I put in my calendar, and it was recurring monthly. And it said, focus on the 90% good, not the 10% bad. Right. So how do I walk up on the job or walk into a department or walk into a meeting? And how do I notice and celebrate and congratulate and say thank you and reinforce the behaviors and the results that we want? When somebody does it well, or even if they did it better than they did it last week, we need to notice and celebrate. Let me just tell you, they say that leaving a job, money is number 5 or 6 on the reason why I leave. The reason that I stay is who I work with. Who is my boss or my manager? Somebody that cares, somebody that understands, somebody that notices, somebody that pours into me. We need to affirm those values so that we act as one organization, one tribe. I worked at one place that was almost cultish. We were all so in to the mission and the vision and what we were trying to accomplish, right? So say thank you, reinforce behaviors and results you want, coach and train when they stumble. Now, it's not always going to be perfect, and it's not always going to be right. That process is on a different day at a different time. We notice, we celebrate later on. Hey, you got a second? I needed to ask you a question about what happened. I'd like to understand your side of the story to see if we can't work together to figure out how to do this better. I got to coach and train when we stumble, but I need to do a better job of celebrating and noticing. All right. The third thing, playing chestnut checkers, is build community. It needs to be we as often as it can be. The tribe. It's us 30. It's us 400. Company I worked with had 1,000 people. Right? We can go conquer this mountain. We can do anything. Let's go. You need to celebrate. You need to appreciate. You need to have some fun. That builds community. I'll never forget, I worked for an organization where the owner told us that if we hit our goals and our numbers and our profitability every year, that every 2 years, if you qualified, he would take you on a company trip, right? So if we crushed it, if we busted our butt, if we did everything we were supposed to, the owner would celebrate by taking us on a trip. Never forget, had dinner on an aircraft carrier in Charleston, South Carolina, because the company rented the ship for the day, and thus 400 or 500 or 600 employees all had dinner. The first time I ever flew on a plane was because I got a chance to go to Cancun, Mexico, because the company crushed it, right? So I had a chance to ride a riverboat up to Titan Stadium to have a company event on the field because we crushed it that year and we were celebrated, right? So let's build community. Let's celebrate. Let's remember to have some fun. Let's remember to say thank you. And it can become quite unstoppable. Culture trumps everything, right? You got to share the ownership. If you're going to win the heart, you got to share ownership. More questions, clarity, specifics, measurable, track and review, accountability, ownership, delegate, empower. I did an Instagram post the other day, the Choices Create Change podcast nugget of the day. The statement I made was, fear is a terrible partner to have, right? So we as owners and department heads and leaders, sometimes we bring that baggage of our past into the situation, and we really just need to delegate and empower and allow somebody else the opportunity, even if they've stumbled and failed a little bit, right? Law of the Little says if we don't do that, we're stuck. We're stuck in our department. We're stuck in our family. We're stuck in our company, right? So we need to share ownership and allow somebody to go experience some new things and try some new things and maybe make a few mistakes, but just empower and encourage them. We need to foster dreams. Mark Miller said, when you get the heart, you get the whole person. If I buy in, even at work, if I buy into what we're doing and what I'm doing and how I'm involved and what I'm contributing, and I'm noticed and I'm celebrated, and we have fun and we make a ton of money and we work our butts off and we work super hard. But if I live in that environment, then you probably got me thinking at night in bed about some of the things that I'm doing at work, and maybe a spreadsheet or maybe a process that needs to be improved. And I'm just kind of laying there in bed thinking through it because I'm all in. When you get the heart, you get all of the person. You can be and get wherever you want to go or be in an organization. And our next question should be, how can I help you get there? Right? How do we win the heart of our people and create a amazing force in your market that all your competitors need to begin to watch out for? Right? Number 4, excel at execution. We need to master the fundamentals. It's so interesting to watch how many times we get things going and we haven't put the foundation in place. We don't have the system. We don't have the process. We don't know how to measure it. We don't know exactly what we're doing, but we're already way down the road and it's chaos and it's confusing and it's frustrating, right? And that's frustrating and confusing to everybody. And so a lot of days are super challenging because we're hoping for these amazing results, but we're planting chaotic seeds. We got to master the fundamentals with clarity and measuring and systems and processes, continued improvement. It's all about the basics. If we can get everything in place, moving like a well-oiled machines, the results take care of themselves. Here's the other thing. There's a great book. It's an old book from the 90s called The Great Game of Business. If you've never read it, listen to it. Amazing. I totally recommend it. But one of the things they also share is, just like Mark Miller, you got to share the score. Everyone needs to know and help carry the load, good or bad, as employees or people on the team or even in a family. If we think everything's wonderful, that's the way we act and behave, and that's the way we spend money. That's the way we show up places, right? When we don't know things are tight or things are really difficult, we don't carry into that load. So here's the deal. Everybody needs to know the score, and everybody needs to carry a piece of that load when it's not going well. But if it's going great, we also need to celebrate the fact that we're crushing it. You got to share the score, and then you got to raise the bar. Challenge them to do more. Not work 80 hours. That's not what we're saying. Not stay late every day. I'm talking about challenge them to think and to own and to experiment and to try. Challenge them to raise the bar. Call them up. Once again, the Great Game of Business. It's phenomenal what that company was able to do as everybody got on the same page and understood what they were measuring and understood the score and how bad it was and how we all started to pull together, right? We should be sharing with our team. We can do this. Let's go. Right? So we need to excel at execution. The last one is it's your move. You need to have the right people in your life. So who is around you and who is influencing you? What voices are you listening to? Had a great sermon last Sunday on the checklist of picking your friends, mwchurch.com. It's awesome, right? The right people in your life as a leader, as a department head, as parents, as kids with friends, the right people in your life is key. The right voices. As it relates to an organization, the right people on the bus. Do they match our values? Do they match our culture? Are they driven? Do they have great work ethic? Do they have integrity, right? Do we have the right people on the bus? Do we have the right people on our leadership team that's helping to run this whole organization? We need people that buy in and believe in us and what we're doing and what we're trying to achieve. Not doubters, not fear, not glass half empty, not people on the team that are dragging all of us down. And we show up to the meeting going, oh no, they're here. This is going to be a battle. We need to get those people off the leadership team, right? Right people on the leadership team, right people on the bus, right people in the right seats. Do they get it? Do they have the capacity to do it? Do they want it? Do they meet our culture? Do they meet our values? Right people in the right seats. Do they understand? Do they have clarity? Do they know what the results are? Do they know what it means to crush it today before I go home? Do they know what we're trying to achieve? Are we training and equipping and executing and measuring? And if it's not working, are we moving home quickly? There's a book called Traction, and they call it 36 Hours of Pain. Look, if we've been coaching and training and equipping and pouring into somebody, and you find yourself talking about the same person or the same situation at almost every meeting, it is a giant red flag that something has not been dealt with, right? If we've done all we can do with this person, we need to let them go somewhere where they can do a good job and make a difference. And it's not here. It's that pain and that fear of what are we going to do because we don't have anybody to take their place. Look, you train them, you equip them, you try to help them execute, you measure. And if it doesn't work, we need to let them go and we need to move on and find somebody else that can come here and thrive. And we need to let them go thrive somewhere else because it's not here, right? but it's your move, right? So let's begin that process of changing the quick and the reaction and the game of checkers. And let's move to a more methodic, more thoughtful, more intentional game of chess. Bet on leadership, act as one, win the heart, excel at execution, and it's your move. My name is Bobby Mink with Choice Consulting and Management, and we want to thank you for joining us at Choices Create Change podcast. Chestnut Checkers by Mark Miller and Randy Gravitt. You need to read it or listen to it. And so let's get started playing the long game to get to people's hearts and create the amazing tribe. You got this. So let's go crush it.